Hi everyone, I thought we'd just quickly label the diagrams related to the lymphatic system. First thing you want to do is to identify the two main vessels in the body, and that is the thoracic duct and the right lymphatic duct. So we'll label the thoracic duct over here. So here's the thoracic duct. If you can follow, maybe we'll draw it in blue over here. So here's the thoracic duct, and it goes posterior to the heart, and then it goes all the way and drains at the junction of the left internal jugular vein and the left subclavian vein that form essentially at the junction of the left brachiocephalic vein. So it drains over there. So let's label the thoracic duct, and it's the main duct in the body. So I guess we can label that as well. It's the main lymphatic duct in the body that drains all of the body except the upper right quadrant. The other one, and we'll draw it in blue over here, it's a bit hard to see, so we'll trace it out over here. It drains at the other brachiocephalic vein, and that is the right lymphatic duct. Now, all throughout the lymphatic system, we have lymph nodes. I'll just color 1, 2 lymph nodes over there. And these lymph nodes tend to congregate in certain locations in the body. And so we should know where they tend to cluster and label those lymph nodes. So we'll start off with the auxiliary nodes over here. So that's the left. Did I say auxiliary? I mean axillary. Oopsies, nodes. Because it's located near the axilla, the armpit. And here's the right axillary nodes on the opposite side of the body. And we have a few more collection in just no particular order. Here we have the cervical lymph nodes. And then we have the mediastinal lymph nodes, which run essentially on either side of the sternum. So these are the mediastinal lymph nodes. And I forgot to mention this little bulging or at the beginning of the thoracic duct over there has its own name, and that's called the cisternae chyli. Cisternae because of cisternae, because it looks like a cistern, and chyli because that's another term for lymph. One more collection of lymph nodes, and that's the inguinal lymph nodes over here. And I think we'll leave it at that. So there are obviously lymph nodes all throughout the body because the lymphatic vessels are located throughout the body as well. The abdominal lymph nodes, iliac lymph nodes, and so on and so forth. So we're not going to label all of them. But other forms of lymphatic tissue, don't forget, are the tonsils and these pious patches, which are located all throughout the intestines. And those are typically called mucosa-associated lymphatic tissue, or MALT for short. But we'll leave it at that for now. And let's look at the other diagram over here. And this particular diagram just shows you the areas of the body that are drained by the two main lymphatic vessels. So in the upper right quadrant, this is the area drained by the right lymphatic duct, and the rest of the body is the area drained by the, if you said thoracic duct, you're right. That's it. let's look at the third diagram, which is a diagram of a typical lymph node. Now, the lymph nodes exist all throughout the lymphatic system, and because that's where the lymphocytes reside, the B and T lymphocytes shown over here. So this particular guy could be a macrophage, for example, that has phagocytized a pathogen. So this is a microbe, and we assume it is a pathogenic microbe. And now the B and T lymphocytes, so don't know which is which, but yeah, this, I guess we can tell actually, because this is a B lymphocyte. And the reason why I know it's a B lymphocyte, at least in this diagram, is because it has these antibodies attached to its surface. The antibodies are actually its receptors. And this guy is a T lymphocyte. Helper T cell or a cytotoxic T cell that we don't know, probably, obviously, mixture of both. So these lymphocytes reside in the lymph nodes, and then they get a good look at the various pathogens that are coming into the lymph nodes in the lymph itself, right? So the only problem is that we want to stall the lymph within the lymph nodes so that the lymphocytes can get a good look at what on earth is going on. As a result, you can see that they are far more afferent lymphatic vessels entering into a lymph node than they are efferent lymphatic vessels. So all these ones over here, and I'm going to have to draw a very long arrow, these are all afferent vessels. So afferent because it's going towards the lymph node. And there's only one efferent lymphatic vessel. So this arrow points towards the efferent lymphatic vessel, but it doesn't show you the direction of flow. So it's kind of a bad arrow, but whatever. It's just pointing towards this vessel. The flow is still coming in from here. Do they have arrow? Okay, so they have a blue arrow over here. So maybe we'll do a blue arrow. So here's the lymph flowing in, and here's the lymph flowing out, right? So that's the direction of flow of lymph, coming in through the afferent lymphatic vessels and coming out through the efferent lymphatic vessels. So that's the efferent, oops, wine blue, whatever, lymphatic vessel. As a consequence of having more afferent lymphatic vessels than efferent lymphatic vessels entering and exiting the lymph node, the lymph is going to stall in the lymph node, and the B and T lymphocytes that are carried in the circulatory system can get a good look at what's going on in the lymph node, right? So what a better place of surveillance than a lymph node, because as we mentioned, the lymphatic vessels are very permeable, and all the pathogens and everything else ultimately lands up in the lymph. They're not going to land up in the blood circulation because the capillaries, other than say sinusoidal and fenestrated capillaries, are impermeable. So most of the microbes are going to land up in the lymph nodes, and especially the macrophages and so forth, other phagocytes that have ingested these pathogenic microbes, they will also be in the lymph. And as a consequence, the best place to do the immunosurveillance is at the lymph nodes with the B and T lymphocytes. Lastly, let's look at a lymphatic vessel. So this L stands for the lymphatic vessel. Here's the L. The L is a typical lymphatic vessel. You can see it's really thin-walled, and the A stands for an artery. The V, ven, stands for venule. I guess this is really not an artery, it's arterial. Whatever, arterial. and as I said, ven is for venules. So if you look at the comparison of a lymphatic vessel, the L, with the arterial or the venule, what does it look more alike to? And that is, a lymphatic vessel looks much like a venule itself because it has a very thin wall, and the V is a valve. So you can see the lymphatic vessels also have valves, just like the valves in the venous system, in order to facilitate movement of lymph back against gravity back into the venous circulation, back really through the thoracic duct in most cases, and entering ultimately into the left brachiocephalic vein at the junction of the left internal jugular vein and the left subclavian vein. So the lymph really needs all its help it can get in order to be able to transport it against gravity back into the venous circulation at that brachiocephalic vein. Consequently, you need the muscular system, muscle contraction, in order to push the lymph upwards. You also need the breathing, the respiratory system, in order to create the negative pressure in the thoracic cavity. And you also need valves in order to prevent backflow of the lymph in these lymphatic vessels. So that's pretty much it. You can clearly see how thin the walls of the lymphatic vessels are. They're very permeable. It's used for drainage, and ultimately, really anything and everything can enter into the lymphatic vessels. So very, very permeable, unlike, say, a arterial or an artery itself. Most of the stuff that's going to land up in the lymphatic vessels will travel through these thoracic duct and through the various nodes, the inguinal nodes, the mediastinal nodes, etc. And in those nodes, as we just mentioned, the B and T lymphocytes can get a good look at it. Hence, the lymphatic system is really also part of the immune system. So that's it for the lymphatic system. I made it nice and short and sweet, unlike all the other chapters in AP2. The lymphatic system is very simple. Please make sure to go through these diagrams and know the basic functions of the lymphatic system. It is, yes, a big drainage system, but is also very much intimately involved with the immune system. Thanks, have a great day. Bye.